aim of adoption.
Okay.
And she sent me Desi's picture. And I remember Johan was at a meeting. And when I got this image, I sat and I just looked at this photo, and it was as if there's, you know, when they make the comics and the light bulb goes up. So it was like a light bulb. It was like that moment. And I looked at this little thing and I was like, this is...
You're going to make me cry. Stop it.
That is my son. And if I can't have him, I don't want anyone else. I want him. And I sent the picture to Johan. And Johan replied and he said, that is our boy. Those eyes deserve love. And I said to Jacqueline, I said, listen, get me in touch with the attorney. We are doing this. And we then told our family, and, you know, there was mixed reactions. No one was against it, but they had a lot of questions.
Obviously.
My dad especially. My dad was like, you know, how sure are you about all of this? Like, we are the parents, because my grandmother had fostered a little girl when my dad then were younger, and she was 4. And the mother, the welfare arrived, and they came and took her back. And I mean, it shattered them, because she was like their sister. And my dad said to me, I just don't want that for you, and I don't want it for that child. So you need to make completely sure.
And you've obviously already been through enough. I'm just looking at his point of view.
That was the thing, you know. At the same time, my sister then dropped the bomb on us that they were immigrating to New Zealand. So at the stage, we were only going to start looking at doing this in the January, February of 2020. When Renee dropped this bomb on us, Johan, it felt like someone had ripped my heart out of my chest. Because not only was my best friend in the whole entire world moving 1,000,000 miles away, but the little boy who I felt like I was a second mom to, I wasn't going to be making memories with him anymore. And if I got to adopt Desi, they were supposed to be best friends. They were supposed to you know, be together and play together and get into mischief together. So then Johan said to me, you know what? Stuff this. I'm done living for everyone else's children.
Yeah.
We are starting this now. We are starting, and we are getting this process going now. And I went to court the first time. So if you think surrogacy is hard, with foster and adoption, you literally have to do everything, including the urine sample and blood test. They want a full medical. That's
wow.
No, it's hectic. So we went to court on the 12th of December, and all the way in Limpopo. So now you must know I drive from Joburg to Polokwane. So I go to court, and I'm in the court, and the state's advocate says to me outside, you know, I read your story, and oh my word, like I can't believe everything, because the social worker does a massive
background check,
in-depth check. She comes to the house, she takes photos, they do a massive check. I mean, it's police clearances, it's a Form 30 which says that you're not on the sexual offenders list. It's huge. And you know, as much red tape as there is, and as irritating as it is, and as time consuming as it is, I completely understand as well, because you're taking a child who is already in a disastrous circumstance.
Yeah.
And the last thing you need to do, that child doesn't, they're in that place, they are getting fed, they've got a place to sleep, all of that. They may not be getting the hugs and kisses and the cuddles and the attention and the love and, you know, that sort of thing. But at least they are safe.
Yes.
the last thing you want to do is take that little kid who is not even aware that there's anything better than that out there and put him in a home where suddenly there may be abuse or something like that. So they have to be so extra pedantic. The other problem that we have in South Africa is that they are very much about reunification. And I will touch on that a little bit more in a bit. So we went the first time, and the state advocate said to me, in principle, they have no problem in giving Desi to us, but the HOD of social development is not there. She's on holiday, so she can't sign off on it. So they postpone. So the magistrate says to me, would you like to take this child for the holiday? So I say to no, I don't. So she says, why? So I said, because can you imagine you now take this little human out of this place and you go and you show him this amazing holiday at the beach and you fall in love with him. And then in January, I have to come back.
Yeah.
And in January, I have to come back and I have to go and drop him off at that place again. Like, yes, I look crazy with everything that I've been through and done, but
I don't think that's crazy, honestly.
I am not going to sign my admission form for Weskoppies myself, or Groendokkies, or whatever you call those places. Yeah. I'm not quite ready to be admitted to Tara. No, thank you. I'm pretty okay still living in my own house. So the magistrate postponed and she said, okay, we'll be back in court on the 21st of January, 2020. On the 21st of January, I arrive and the state advocate can't even look me in the eye. And she starts and yes, now please note, Desi has now been in care of the state for 3.5 years.
That's a long time.
Nobody has come to look for him, has responded to an advert, nothing, okay? His biological mom, her wishes were as follow. Firstly, she had Desmond in a hospital. She didn't throw my child away or leave him, dump him somewhere or anything like that. She went to the magistrate, the same magistrate who was now presiding over our case. She stood in front of her and she said, I want my son to be adopted by someone unknown to me, not a family member, someone who is not known to me, and I want him to have a better life. And the magistrate said to me, she was only 21 when she was giving Desi up. And she said to me, do not for 1 second think that this woman did not love this little boy. He was loved from the word go. She said she cried in front of me when she signed him off. It was a very hard decision for her. And I think this is also where we are so quick to judge. We're so quick to say, how can you do that? How can you give your kid away? Until you have stood in those shoes, do not cast the stone. Yes, I judge the person who throws and dumps the child in a dustbin or in a toilet or whatever. But in that same breath, I judge our government for not making it a safe place for moms to be able to go and give their baby up.
Yeah.
Because you ridicule them, you ostracize them when they make that decision. And now the state advocate is standing there and she's saying, no, but they must go and find the family. They must go to the village and go and find the family. You've had 3.5 years to do this. Now we are coming there and we are asking you to be able to come and actually take Desi and give him a life that he deserves to have and give him the opportunity to live out all of his potential. Now suddenly you want to go and take him and go and look for some long lost family who his mom had pretty categorically stated she doesn't want him with.
Yeah.
You want to go against the mother's wishes, number one.
Yeah.
And you want to place him because who knows, maybe her family didn't know she was pregnant.
Yeah, you never know.
Or maybe she knows that they can't care for this child. Or maybe she knows that it's an abusive situation, an environment. So the matter got postponed again. And the magistrate said to her, it's final postponement. When you come back on the 12th of February, you have to tell me why it is better for this child to be in the place of safety than with the Koolens. I don't want to hear anything else of da-da-da. I want to know why it is better for him to be there than with a family. So we then went back on the 12th of February, and Johan and I were both in court on that day. And you know, things work out in such a weird way because Jacqueline has known Desmond since he was a baby. Yeah. Because she had obviously, you know, from the baby home. So she knew everything and how everything worked with these kids and what had been done and what hadn't been done. Mm. And I had said to her the day before, we're driving through tomorrow morning for court. And she said, oh, I really wish I could be in court with you just to support you, but I've got meetings. And at 7 o'clock that morning, she phoned me and she said, Adele, are you still, what time do you have to be in court? So I said, 8:30. So she said, all my meetings have been cancelled. I will meet you there. And this, it was as if God was saying, nothing is going to prosper against you today. No one is going to take away what you really deserve. And we got to court, and every time the state's advocate said something, then she would message our attorney, Elliot, and say, listen, that's not right, that's not right. So he could object against everything because the state's advocate, actually, they didn't have their ducks in a row. Mm. And then the magistrate said to me, okay, she wants me to take the stand. And I took the stand and she said to me, why should we allow you to have this little boy? She said, tell me about your support structure. I said, so I've got a village of people. I've got his room is ready. I mean, I've got so many people that will support me. I said, and at the end of the day, I said, it's not about giving us the chance to be parents. It truly is about giving this little boy the opportunity and the chance to have everything and more than he deserves and should have. And I remember while I was speaking, the state advocate she just ignored, like she didn't look at me or anything. And it aggravated me to such a point. And I remember actually turning to her and looking at her and I said, to look at me when I'm speaking. I said, we are not bad people. We are not going to do anything bad to this little boy. And I said, you know, like, I am not some horrible human. All I'm asking is a chance. And I've never cried as much as I did when that magistrate granted the order. And at 4 o'clock that afternoon, I went and fetched this boy. And Johan said to me, you go with Jacqueline. I don't want to overwhelm everything. And we sat and Jax went because obviously she knows him and she came walking down the passage with this little thing and I felt like he was this big. He was a small little human, his big eyes. And he walked down and I sat down on my haunches. And as he came close, he just put his arms out. And when I gave him that hug, it was as if everything in my life up until that point that was ever important seemed trivial. And we dressed him. I gave all the stuff that he had to the place of safety. I said to them, you guys can keep this. You've done such a wonderful job, because I just wanted to get this little boy and get him out of that place, you know?
Yeah.
And we put this little thing in the back seat, and he was so tiny and in the car seat. And he just sat and he just looked out the window like this the whole time. And then we got to Jax's house because we decided we would stay over there the night. And then we got to her house, and I was sitting on the floor with him. He was eating, and Johan got there, and it was so funny. Johan was like, "Hi, Desmond." He put his hand up. I'm Johan. I mean, and it's so funny now, but in that moment, like, Johan said, he was so like, I mean, we went from being just the two of us to being parents,
like instantly.
It was an instantaneous thing, and Jacqueline said to him, "Nee man, where's Papa?" and Johan picked him up and he squeezed Johan, and he like looked at him and he put his hand on Johan's face. And now you must also remember, Dizzy didn't speak a word of English. He only spoke Pedi.
Oh,
so now you've got this little human with these eyes, like looking at everything.
Like, what is happening?
Surrounded by white people. You've got this, he's now surrounded by white people. I mean,
ja, maar as jy nou
was in a
ouderdom
place
is, hulle weet nie van kleur nie. Hulle weet net nie van dit nie.
And also now there's, maar nou is daar 'n man. There's a man there. They were only, at the place where they were at, obviously there's boys and girls, but the carers are majority female.
Yeah.
So like quite foreign, So now this night I go and bath him. I mean, this is like all like
Neat. Very, very
neat. And also you're also sort of trying to establish that sort of relationship, and you need to establish trust, because I mean,
he doesn't know you from an outside. I mean, who are these people?
Exactly. So anyways, I mean, we put him in the car the next day. We went from Polokwane back home, and he just looked out the window the whole way. And I remember when we got home, I mean, my sister had left me cupboards full of clothing from Leo, toys, a bed, I mean, everything. And we walked into this room, and this kid's face, I mean, I was like, this is your bed, this is your toys. And he just stood at our window, and I've got a picture actually where he was standing looking out the window. And that was the 12th of February 2020. And then we went into lockdown.
Liewe Jesus is baie lief vir jou. He knew exactly what he was doing when he made this plan for you, my friend.
I tell you, I mean, you've got this child who is only speaking a little bit of English. And now we're in lockdown. And he's like my shadow. He's like my shadow. And by March, I mean, he was speaking quite a few words and stuff. And it was Mama and Papa and I love you. And I mean, even now, still to this day, like last night when I put him to bed and I said to him, I love you, my boy. And he says, I love you too, Mom. My heart breaks open. Like, I just like, I get so overwhelmed by it. So now we are in lockdown, the 21 days as we had all thought. And what's 21 days, in the bigger scheme of things? What are we on now? Like 850 days or something. God, it's like the longest 21 days of my life. But anyway, so we go into lockdown at the farm. And it's all fair and like all fine. And I try and do a bit of homeschooling with Desi, but he's not really having much of it. And I'm too impatient. So I'm just like, you know what, stuff this. We are not homeschooling. We are playing games. We are baking, all of that. And then they say to us, oh, by the way, you are having lockdown for longer. So I'm like, when are these children going to go back to school? Because now he had effectively started school when he came to us, and he had only been there for, 3 weeks, and then it was school holiday, and then we went into lockdown. So yeah, I was like, okay, anyway, so it's all fine. They then slowly start opening everything, and they say, no, they can go back to school in, I think it was the July. So I, in the meantime, decide to move him from the school where I was at, because what I noticed during the lockdown, that I was just like, listen, if this is what we're paying for, my child is not going to progress anywhere. Like it was really not great. So I spoke to an old patient of mine who was a principal at a school, and he said to me, no, they've got space. I took Desi to go and see the place. Lovely teacher, and he's supposed to start on the 20th of July. And on the 6th or 7th of July, I test positive for COVID.
Nia, listen, dude, like, really?
So I test positive, Johan tests positive. Desi tests. I didn't test him. So I just assumed he probably has it. Anyway, Johan doesn't have a symptom in the world. I, however, feel like I'm on my deathbed. And I'm battling, and my sats are down, and I'm like, and this poor little boy, he just wants to be on top of his mama the whole time, and hugs and kisses, and I'm like, so much for isolation.
Like, I feel like death.
So all three of us head down. We decide, you know what, we're not going to manage to isolate up in Joburg, because at the end of the day, like, Johan's not feeling sick, so there's so much temptation for him to just go out and go to the office and that sort of thing. So we get in the car and we drive to Cape St. Francis, and we go and isolate. And I landed up going into isolation for 21 days actually, because I was just not getting better. So it was the first time for Desi at the beach as well. I mean, now it's the middle of winter, so you can imagine it's freezing. And we're down there. So we're now out of our 14 days, so we can now, move around. But I was still sort of staying indoors as much as possible until the 21 days. And so we go, and we take him to the beach to go now see this. And that little face, oh my word, Jess, it was just like, you forget. We take all these things so for granted.
Yes, we kind of do.
This little face and that water, and he loves water. I mean, he did swimming lessons. I took him as soon as he came to us. He loves water and everything. He was just sitting on the sand playing. Obviously it was too cold to swim, so we didn't go on to that one. We eventually came home and then started school. And I was that mom, when you sit in the car and you see this kid screaming its lungs out, and the mother is carrying the child, and it's kicking and screaming and pulling hair, and
carrying by the leg.
No, say hi to that mom. It was so traumatizing, because now at the school you can't walk them into their classroom because of COVID.
Stop.
So you have to drop.
Stop. Sorry. Hi. Give me an idea what was wrong. Sorry, Adele.
Ek neem aan as jou honde nie jou kinders nie.
Nee, daarom nie my kids nie.
No, don't stress. So anyway, every morning For the first 3 weeks, it's a scream fest. I mean, it is so bad that I have to get my helper to drive with me so that she can just keep him in the car.
No.
And yes, then he's screaming and drop him off, and then his teacher sends me a message 5 minutes later with a face.
He's fine.
Smiling, eating.
He's fine. Don't worry about it.
So, you know,
show me
I
a parent that hasn't gone through that. Please show me that parent.
Yeah. And, you know, the thing is, like, I felt so bad, but she said to me, Adele, the first time that you don't sit through, then they realize they've got you.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a habit, you know. And that was then I also realized the extreme separation anxiety.
Yes.
Because then what would happen was he would say, okay, I would say to him, Desi, Mama's going to be right here when you finish. Then I had to literally park my car in the same spot as the morning, because he believed that I was sitting outside the school waiting for him to finish.
Oh, bless.
And I mean, he would be so observant. The one day I had parked somewhere different, and he said to me, why did you move your car? So I said, no, it was so hot. I wanted to come and park under the tree. Another time he saw I got back, and he said to me, you didn't have those clothes on this morning. I was like, oh no, Mama dropped my coffee on me. I had to quickly go home.
Quickly, very quickly.
So anyway, and up until that time, I mean, we didn't have a huge amount of hassle with him. One thing was, this boy didn't cry. So he would sit and he just wouldn't cry. And then suddenly when he wouldn't stop. He would cry for, like, no jokes, hours on end. Like, it would be an hour before he would calm down. And so then I started play therapy with him. And we unearthed a lot of things, you know. He never got to say goodbye to his little friends. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all he ever knew. He was so scared to talk about his friends and talk about the other place, because he was worried if he said he missed his friends, I would take him back.
Yeah.
And if I can recommend to any parent, regardless of your situation, play therapy is a complete eye opener. And it teaches you so much of how to manage, because you're saying to me, what happens is this kid is behaving like a toddler, screaming, shouting, da-da-da. You as a parent, they start behaving like that as well. So you've got two toddlers against each other, where you're, as the adult, you're supposed to be calm. You're supposed to, you know, explain. And it's okay to be sad now. It's okay to be upset. Do you want to talk about it? And I mean, you know, if you've told me these things years ago, I'd be like, oh, asseblief, just, you know what, box law. But no, I mean, we do the time in, time out thing, time out, time in, and it's worked phenomenally. And we then decided that we were going to start with the application for adoption. And so we had to advertise again for the birth, for the biological father. So then you've got 90 days that you have to wait to see if anyone comes forward. So that came and went. And then my social worker died, you know, like, yeah. Luckily, the social worker who she worked with, one of her friends, knew the case. So she took it over, and, you know, we just kept on rolling. We got our new police clearances. We did our medicals. We did Desi's medical. And then we handed in, so DSD gives you what they call a Form 239, and that is a form that says that they agree with the adoption. If they withstand it, the law has changed now, where the magistrate can now make the decision that she can override DSD, but before she couldn't. So I was very worried that DSD wouldn't give us the form because of what had happened in Limpopo with us, having to go forwards and backwards. And it was 10 days and we got our form 239. So I was like,
fantastic.
And my social worker said, well, don't get too excited because don't know how long it's going to take you to get a court date. So I was like, okay, well,
let's see.
Anyway, so she took that and she filed at court. I want to say it was the middle of October. Yeah, I think it was the middle of October. We filed at court for a court date. And she phoned me the 28th of November, the Monday. She phoned and she said, we have a court date and it's this Thursday.
Yo, that was very quick. You said.
It was 6 weeks. It was 6 weeks from the date of filing, which is quite unheard of. But you know what? I was just saying thank you for small miracles. But again, this is when we went, Johan said, I'm not getting my hopes up. And I thought, oh my God. And we got there and the clerk came to me and she said, I need proof of the birth mother's ID. I was like, it's 5.5 years ago. And there was no ID. She didn't have identification. Yeah, no, but she needs something. So here's me on the phone. Now we're there at 10 o'clock. We're supposed to be seen at 10:15. I'm on the phone to the baby home, to the social worker, to another social worker, eventually get the number of the magistrate. On the phone to the magistrate, I'm like, please, can you just send me, is there something? She's like, yeah, there's the form 60 that she signs off. I'll send you. So she sends me photos of it because obviously, now we're
you're there.
Two different promises.
This is happening right now.
And the magistrate says, okay, she will accept the photos, but I need to bring certified copies the next day. Which is fine. I'm fine. I'm like, but now you're only going to hear us the next day. And does Desi have to be here now the next day? In the meantime, Desmond has fallen asleep on my lap because it's now 2:45 in the afternoon. We have not drank anything or eaten anything because there's nowhere to go at the court. There's not even a vending machine. So the clerk comes and now I've explained to Desi, we're going to the court. We're going to the place where they're going to give us the paper to say that we're a forever family and that you belong to us. So he's sitting, sleeping on my lap, and the court clerk comes and she says she just wants to take him to go meet the magistrate. So I'm like, no, she says, I'll take him. So she picks him up, and I didn't think anything of it at the moment. He wakes up, so I give him to her and I say, Desi, the lady's just going to take you to another lady. And they walk down the passage, but now Johan goes with, okay? So he walks, but now he doesn't go into the office. And obviously the magistrate's asking just random little bits of questions. And when he came out, he burst into tears. And I said to him, what's wrong, my boy? And he thought they were going to take him away.
Oh.
And, my heart. But anyway, so we then go and sit outside the court. We're waiting. And, Desi's on Instagram. And you know that. And he's always been since day one. And I had checked to see if it was okay. Now, attorney had said to us, both my attorneys said it's 100% fine. I haven't done anything different to Desi that I would have done if it was my own biological child.
Yeah.
So we're sitting, and across from us, there's this black gentleman sitting with a mask on, and he goes, is that Desmond?
Oh, Nia.
And I had told no one except our closest family that we were going to court. And I go, yes. And I'm thinking, oh my God, who is this person? Has he now crawled out of the woodwork? And he goes, oh, I follow you on Instagram. I love him. Of all places, in the court on the day of our adoption. But anyway.
Oh, thank heavens.
I know, right? We walked in and you know, it's the weirdest process. You've waited so long. You walk in and the magistrate, I said, thank you so much for waiting for us and, you know, for us to get everything sorted out. And she said, no, it's my job. And Johan said to her, you know, we're just so used to things going wrong. And she said, well, nothing can go wrong. It's done. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, you just have to sign that form. We literally just had to sign the order in front of her, the court paper that says that we acknowledge and we understand what it means to adopt him. And she then read all of this out to us. And she's like, you know, do you understand the following 3 things? And it's effectively that for all due purposes, Desmond is now seen as our child, as if he was born to us. We understand and undertake to look after him. And yeah, and she was like, and he is yours, and no one, and then the surname Koolen has to be conferred on him, and no one can take him away from you. Jess? Yeah. Johan and I had Desi on my hip. Johan and I were hugging, we burst out crying. We were crying so badly. And I said, he said, why are you crying, Mom? I said, these are happy tears, my boy. I said, because no one can ever take you away. We are forever family. And he was like, okay. And then we got the court clerk. This magistrate was so amazing. I mean, she was just so phenomenal. And she's very pedantic and very strict and everything, but she really does have the best interest of the child in heart, you know, and that's what you need. And she just said to me, she said, you know, go forth and just be a family and just give him the best. And we then took a photo of us with his court order standing. And yeah, so I mean, we're not done completely. It's still a process, because then from there, the court order gets sent to Pretoria to DSD, where the registrar of adoption then puts a stamp onto it and says, it gives you the order to say that the Home Affairs has to now register him. So we are in that process. We're just waiting for that to come back. But for all due purposes, Desmond is now Desmond Koolen. He belongs to us, as he has from the first day I laid my eyes on him. But he is my child for all purposes. No one can ever take him away from us.
I'm so glad for you.
And you know, Jess, I think someone said to me the other day, if you could turn the clock back, would you do all of this again? And I said to them, you know, yes, I would have.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because that was the path that was meant for me. I grew so much. I became so much more grateful for so many things. You know, and if I think about it, it's so funny, because Desi was born in 2016 in the June, and we found our first surrogate in the October of 2016. And you know, it's almost as if God had this plan of, this little boy's there. He's there and he's waiting just for when you are finally ready.
Yes.
And
that's so beautiful.
You know, yesterday being Mother's Day was an extremely emotional day for me, because it's not something that I ever thought I would have. And I actually put a little video on Instagram yesterday, and I said, you know, motherhood looks very different to each and every one of us.
Yeah.
For some of us, it comes very easy, and for some, it never does. So there's the people who get to be called a mom in whichever way or means it is. I do hope that each one of them thanks God every night, or whoever you pray to or believe in or whatever, and says thank you for that gift, because it truly is the most precious and most greatest gift there is. you know, I remember everyone always says to me, oh, Desi is so blessed to have you as his parents. We're the blessed ones. We are the blessed ones that we have been chosen to have him as our little boy, to have this little human and be able to mold him. And, you know, I've watched him grow over the last 2.5 years, and it's just every day. Well, he has me in stitches. I mean, he's the funniest kid there is. Just watching.
Well, he's just actually taking after his mother, so.
You know, he's got such a beautiful, beautiful demeanor. He's so caring. He's such an empath. He has his moods, but I mean, what child doesn't?
Oh, yes, of course.
You know, but he's empathetic. He's emotionally so in tune. He really loves wholeheartedly. And I can just hope and pray that will forever be there. That, you know, and I always, always, always want him to remember exactly where he comes from. And we've spoken about it. I mean, Desi has asked me about who's, you know, why is he calls himself chocolate and he calls me milk. And then he said to me, where are your milk children? So I said, my tummy can't make children. So then he said, but whose tummy made me? So he's very much aware and very in tune with that. And I said to him, the tummy mommy. And then he said, well, you know, do we like the tummy mommy? So I said, of course we do. I said, we love her and we're very grateful for her because she had given me him. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have had him. And I think that's again something that people are very scared of when they think of adoption. But what if the child wants to meet his biological parents? You know what? I have to, in my mind, go, Desi might want to do that. And it's okay. Because I know that I am his mother and Johan is his father. And that woman grew him. That is, you know, she's not his mom per se. She's the lady, she's the tummy mommy. She's the person who gave him life, who loved him enough to want better for him.
Yeah.
And that I am so grateful for. And, you know, every day is a challenge, as it is with any child. And there will obviously be questions as we go along. I had the discussion with the teacher in the beginning of the year, and she handled it so well, explaining to the parents, you know, explain to your children that families all look different. Some families have 2 mommies, some have 2 daddies, some have only a mommy, some have only grandparents, some like us have a little boy who was not born to us, some have a mommy and a daddy that are, you know, look different. And she handled it so well, and I have had 0 backlash. I haven't had one negative comment from the day that Desi came into our life.
That is, and I mean, so fantastic.
If anything on social media, if we are quiet, I will get a message. Hi, Adele. How are you? Oh, so you've been so. How is Desi? I'm like,
hello.
I'm just the chopped liver at the back. Everyone wants Desi, but you know what? That's also fine.
Yes.
And I really want to encourage everyone who's watching this and listening to it and say, whichever way you plan on doing it, you know, your story, not everyone's story is like mine. A lot of people fall pregnant on their first fertility treatment. A lot of people have twins. A lot of people try a few times and they fall pregnant. And a lot of people don't have the money to try that means. A lot of people choose directly to adopt, even if they can have their own children. And whichever way you choose, there is no right way. The only thing I'm going to say, though, is if you do not want children, there's nothing wrong with that either, because there's nothing worse than having a child because society dictates this and you don't love them enough. That I will judge you on. Any other way, never ever. And I just want to, if anyone has any questions about fostering, adoption, surrogacy, whatever, I mean, Jess, you can put my handle.
I'm gonna.
And they're welcome to contact
don't
me.
worry.
They're welcome to contact me on DM, and I'm always open to chat about it or give advice or give the names or numbers or whatever, because I think education really is key in this whole thing. And I walked into it very blindly. I paid the school fees effectively because I wasn't educated on it. And I so wish that I had been, because maybe things would have been a little bit different, or I would have processed it a bit better, or I would have taken a little bit of a gap in between, or chance, that sort of thing. But either way, it's worked out exactly as it should be. And for me, this is what we were supposed to have. And like I said in the beginning, the parents all had questions. Now they can't get enough of this little human. It's the only reason they want to see us is for him.
Yeah, it's like, you don't matter anymore. Who are you even?
Like, when they phone and they're like, how's Daisy? I am fine, thank you so much for asking. Fine.
That's awesome.
And it's really, at the end of the day, it was a long path. And if I think about it, the first time we tried or decided to fall pregnant, I was 29. I'm turning 41 this week. So it's a lot of years later. But effectively, if I look at it, I always said I wanted to have my first child at 32, my second one at 35. Although Daisy only came into our life when I was 38, he was born when I was 35. So effectively,
So technically, it all worked out absolutely beautiful.
And it is honestly the most fulfilling thing. And I wouldn't change anything. And so that's my story. And
that is awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Letting me share.
Wow, what an amazing story. I mean, I think there's so much you can take from this, whether you're a parent or whether you're not. There's so much to be taught in this, this whole environment that we know absolutely nothing about. And I am so grateful that you shared your story. I'm so proud of you, obviously you being my friend. And I'd like to encourage people, honestly, I'd like to encourage people to actually give you a DM. I think the stigma around all of this, to not speak about it, or whether to or not to be or not to be, it needs to change. That's all I know, and I'm forever grateful. Thank you for your time, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jess.
And I love you much, and happy Mother's Day for yesterday.
Thank you, and to you, and we'll chat soon.
Absolutely. Bye.
Thank you, Jess. Bye.